$8,000 in final expense sold over the phone. I'm going to be interviewing my agent, Melissa, on how she was able to do that. Of the $8,000 in premium she wrote last week, $4,000 of it was in one day. If you are interested in selling final expense, and you're looking for tips to do it successfully over the phone, or perhaps you're a new agent thinking about why one should sell telesales versus face-to-face, this is going to be a great interview that's going to give you a lot of those nuggets to help you make that decision of how you want to sell and succeed at doing so. My name is David DeFord. I own DeFord Insurance Group. I train agents nationally to sell final expense face-to-face or over the phone. We also train agents to sell Medicare, ACA, and annuities. Visit daviddeford.com/FAQ for more information. Melissa, how you doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off. You had a great week last week, $8,000 plus in premium, all final expense, all over the phone. Start from the beginning. Tell us briefly a little bit about your experience in the final expense business and how you came into telesales.
I've been licensed since 2008. I've primarily done independent work. I've done a captive and a broker as well. I switched to telesales about 6 months ago, opposed to face-to-face. So the 15 years I started in the business, I was face-to-face, recently switched to telesales.
Now, this is kind of interesting to me because you had tons of experience, tons of success to selling face-to-face, but got to a point after many years in the business that you transition to phone sales. What has that transition been like for you?
A little bit stressful, actually. Actually, after like month 6, I'm just starting to get more comfortable with it. I guess because I've been so successful face-to-face, or it's a little hard to swallow when you're not on your A game necessarily anymore. I mean, I've done over $500,000 on my own pen before, face-to-face. Kind of going back to the bottom, to the beginning, is a little humbling. But I find with most sales, the biggest thing is just keeping your activity up.
Right.
So that's been the thing that has really helped me get through. And it takes a lot more activity over the phone than it does face-to-face, for sure.
Yeah, so let's hit on 2 or 3 big differences between face-to-face final expense and telesales, because you've been there on both ways. You've had success with both. What can an agent who sells over the phone expect that's different from selling face-to-face final expense?
And like I said, the amount of activity and effort to get the numbers is important. You'll see a lot more of that. I feel like there's more objections over the phone because there's more reluctance. They can't see me. I'm not there. I can't read their body language and vice versa. So I feel like I do experience more rejection over the phone versus face-to-face.
Do you feel like if you were in person with those kind of people pushing you back that you might have been able to close them?
Absolutely. And I was listening to a podcast that said that it's almost advantageous for telesales people to have never been in the field so that you don't have that in your head. But absolutely, if I don't close the sale, I'm like, if I would have been at the kitchen table with that person, it would have been a done deal. So, yeah.
So what kind of objections do you feel like you hear more of over the phone than you would have in person?
They try to give you the impression they're busy. And that may be the case. But if I'm there at the front door, they're more likely to let me in. I'm there. They'll talk to me for 15 minutes. It's a lot easier to hang up the phone on me than it is like to close the door. So I get objections regarding not available. Can you call me back? Can you call me back? So then that's where I have to figure out how to try to keep them on the phone and create a sense of urgency so that they don't terminate the call. The most ironic thing is the checking. I get more objections with that than the social. The same people that won't give me their checking account will spit out their social in a heartbeat. And to me, my social is more important than my bank account. That's my whole identity. But people will give me their social and then get to the checking and try to give me objections. And then I'll have to, overcome it. But those are some of the biggest ones that I encountered.
And I, as a face-to-face agent predominantly myself, did a little bit of telesales before I got really full-time into my agency. It's interesting, some of the things you just never would hear, like, for example, Social Security objections, bank account objections, etc. Like, it's something that, you just start to hear that you never would. So then, it's interesting talking about this, Melissa. So we've talked about, like, the drawbacks of telesales in so many words. Why are you still doing it if you're getting all this rejection, more of it than you would than in person?
I like having more flexibility. For me as a female agent in the winter, pretty much my schedule has to be 9 to 5 because I don't work in the dark. Versus summer, I can work 9 to 9. And so working via phone, I can work 9 to 9 year round. And so I don't have the daylight limiting me or the safety component worrying about, being in neighborhoods, because primarily final expenses mid to low income. Mm-hmm. A lot of, wealthier people have prepared, more right. So. And so you find yourself in some areas that aren't as safe. That's one of the motivators. And just being able to work in a clean, tidy work environment, opposed to some of the homes that may not be as clean as I would like, or as clean as I'd be comfortable in.
Yeah, there's some crazy homes out there, y'all, if y'all haven't been inside of a Final Expense Prospects house, and say the least, so mm-hmm. I guess it's nice to be at home too, in the sense that you can eat healthier, you kind of plan your meal. You're not eating out of a gas station, that's kind of the life of a lot of face-to-face.
Or using the gas station restroom.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Right. Sanitize every other second kind of thing, so that's cool. Do you find yourself missing face-to-face sales at all?
Yes. So recently I just made some changes to my business. I've decided to start working more at co-working spaces and coffee shops. When I first transitioned, there was a group of colleagues and we had a Zoom, and that created some interaction amongst people and colleagues. And so once that dissolved, it began to be more challenging, kind of isolating, because I find myself leaving the house maybe twice a week to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods and back home. And so I miss the interaction with people. Absolutely.
Right.
And so now that I've transitioned into working from a co-working space or either the coffee shop, it allows me to be more focused. But then there's also people interaction with other people. That's the part that I miss from face to face, because even though I'm talking to clients over the phone, it's not quite the same as interacting with someone face to face.
That in-person belly to belly experience, right? It's just, it's different. It's similar, but it's not the same. The more extroverted you are, the more engagement I think that you need, and being at home selling this stuff is isolating. Like, you don't ever leave the home to do anything except, like you said, shop and go back to your house. Did you find selling from home, because you talked about how you've purposely moved to a co-working space, so I'd like to talk about this. Did you find that selling at home from the comfort of your own home was more difficult than you imagined it was?
Yes. And after being in the business for 15 years, I'm like, oh, I'm disciplined. I've survived all this time with, no one breathing down my neck. And, I got this. I don't, need necessarily the accountability and things like that. But it's definitely different working from home. I found myself being distracted by dishes, laundry, my fur babies, isolating myself in an environment where really all I have is my dials, working, focusing, getting it done, and also having a separation between personal and work. Just having the environment separate. I mean, mentally, I can flip a switch and say, okay, I'm leaving my co-working space. Work is done for the day. I can go home and transition to this other part of my life, versus it all flowing together. You find it hard to balance. You find yourself checking emails at all times of night, or corresponding with emails, or dialing, until 9 o'clock, even 10 o'clock, because I'm in Central. So if I dial an Eastern time zone, I can dial later. And so just having more balance makes my life more fulfilling.
And that's good that you took the initiative to kind of identify that and basically make that separation. Because I think a lot of people vastly underestimate the difficulties that come from working remotely or working from home. I can say from personal experience, when I started running my agency, I was basically out of my house, spare bedroom, right, which is great. But my wife's here, my kids are here, they're now homeschooled, and my wife just walked in, had a package for me. It's like, I'm in the middle of a recording. You can't stop what I'm doing to do this, right? So it's like, you really have to set boundaries. You have to be very intentional. And it's like, well, it's so what, but it's important. There's a lot of things going on that you'll heavily discount that are going to distract you from the absolute focus you need to do well. And you need that for something like this, which is a performance-based business. CRMs. How important is a CRM to be successful selling over the phone?
In my opinion, it's not necessary. Could it help you be more efficient? But honestly, I haven't set one up yet. I'm able to produce just fine as long as I have my laptop and my cell phone. The biggest thing is dialing. So whether you dial from a cell phone, you dial from, a dialer, just get your activity. I'm trying not to get too bogged down in a lot of the details. It's something that I plan to add in the near future, but I wanted to kind of wrap my head around kind of what was going on in the telesales world before I added an extra layer of complexity.
And thank you for that, because it's something I try to yell at all my agents, like, you got to make this business simple, because you can make it real complex if you're not worried about it. It's trying to self-generate leads, developing automation cycles for your process flow, a CRM setup, having the knowledge base to do that stuff. And a lot of sales, CRM, and marketing is all front-loaded effort and activity. It takes more time in the beginning to get good at it. But if you add on multiple layers of complexity, what I have discovered is most agents will never start. It's better to start imperfectly than never to start because you desire or demand perfection. So kudos to you with the calling and you tapping into that. That's something I recommend for everybody. Like just the way insurance is sold still is by picking up the phone and knowing how to sell them, learning how to make them trust you, like you, convince them to hand their money to you. That stuff an automation sequence won't ever do. It'll just get you to the point of getting that person open-minded, but you still have to know how to sell. And that still works alone. And Melissa's not the only one. A lot of agents out there, they don't have a CRM, and they do very, very well, many times much better than those who do. So let's move into kind of talking about your week in production. I'd like to briefly hit on that. How did you write $4,000 in premium in one day? Take us through that day, if you don't mind walking us through how you made it happen.
It's interesting. The people at the co-working space, the cleaning people, the security people, they're like, you were here before I got here. You're still, here now. And so just putting in the hard work that really goes, a long way. And that was a day I actually worked 8 to 8. So I packed all my food, breakfast, lunch, and 2 snacks. And I just said, I'm dialing. I put any policy services, emails, everything to the side. My main goal is to dial. I'm reading Brian Tracy, No Excuses. And one of the tactics he uses to get people out of a sales funk or slump is the 100 dial method. And basically it's make 100 dials without worrying about the results. If they answer, if you sell, the goal is to just make the 100 dials. I usually set a dial goal for myself every day, depending on how many hours I work. And so I got to my co-working space at 8 o'clock that day. My first sale was a referral from a TTC lead. And so majority of my leads are from TTC. And so there's a woman that I helped with coverage. And I try to always ask, it's nothing fancy or elaborate or super salesy. Is there anyone in your circle that may need help with coverage? The kids covered, anyone at church, your neighbors? It takes 2 seconds. If I get a name and number, great. If not, I still have my leads. But a lot of times it's free leads. And she said, yes, call my daughter. And so my first sale of the day was that lead daughter. And so I'd enrolled her, continue making calls. I made 2 more sales for my TTCs. This was my first dial through. And these leads were about 2 weeks old. They really had to convince me to buy them. They're pre-generated, and I really like fresh leads.
Yeah.
I just see more reward with my effort having fresh leads. And so he's like, I swear, Melissa, you're going to do good. And actually, I think I ordered 75 and I made 8 sales in total from those 75.
From pre-generated leads? That's sick, man.
Well, he said they were some sort of newer pre-generated where they want more than a week. So they weren't old, but they weren't like fresh. And he said that I can get those to you in an hour versus you waiting for me to run your campaign, which may take 5 days. And I said, okay, send them over. And they worked out. So
yeah.
But my second and third sale that day was just from dialing. And so I used the Do For It script you provide. I'm really big on not reinventing the wheel. If you've already figured it out, hey, and it works. So I literally call and go right through the script. I don't deviate from it much at all. So that was my second and third sale. My fourth sale was actually pre-generated. I'd gone to a jazz show the prior weekend. I'm not the annoying person that's always trying to pitch to friends and family. If you ask what I do, I'll tell you. If you have questions, I'll engage you, but I'm not actively soliciting people in my personal life. I kind of let the leads do their job. People know what I do in my circle. If they like help, I help them. At any rate, I met a gentleman at the jazz show and he was looking for coverage. And so he was my fourth deal for today. So 1 referral, 1 personal generated, and 2 from traditional dials from Facebook leads.
Nice. That was a 4,000 AP day. Congratulations. How did you add the other 4,000 to the rest of the week?
Those were, I did 3 or 4 more deals. I did 2 more from the TTC campaign that I had. And then I had some older direct mail leads from earlier this year. My system was, I didn't set appointments. I just kind of door knocked the leads. I just showed up, hey, you sent the postcard in, I'm here to talk. And so I tried 3 times. If I didn't reach him, I'd put him in a phone pile. And so I kept putting off transitioning to phone sales. And I'm like, let me just finish these leads. And then there's always more leads. I'm like, you know what? I'm just cutting it off on July 1st. And whatever leads I have, I'll just deal with. So I decided I didn't want to take those leads until next year. So I wasn't able to finish working them face to face. So I decided to call these people. And I met with a lady, her mom was in hospice, and there was a lot of people, the nurses in and out of the house, things like that. And so I had a note to call her. So I called her Saturday and she said, Melissa, you must be really bored to call me 6 months later about this insurance. And I said, no, you're actually in a pile of about 70 other people that I need to follow up with. And I said I didn't want to close the year out without corresponding and following up. So we actually did a policy for her. Cool. So I did a couple more TTCs, and then I did some follow-up on some leads from earlier this year. That's and awesome. Got my last sale.
And all of this was at the co-working space, kind of set up in the zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your long-term goal here in the business? What are you looking to accomplish now that you're kind of dialed in? What's your goal for 2023 as far as production goes?
As far as production goes, I'd like to do over at least 250K. Good. I'd like to also start mentoring other agents as well. I see, how do I say this nicely? I see the need for more honorable mentors in our business. And so I figured, why not? If it's something, you know, I'm good at, I've been doing for a while. So I'd like to start helping other agents that are serious about becoming successful in the business.
Good. Yeah. Always room for, you know, good managers that take time to train and coach and develop. I think that'll always be in demand. As you know, a lot of these managers out there, they don't do much of managing, you know, when it comes to training and support.
Or they've only been in the business a month and you're like trying to recruit me. Not that I know it all, but seriously.
Right. A race to the bottom kind of thing, which is unfortunate for most.
Well, we're missing the mark, just forgetting that it's important if you're going to mentor to keep your mentees first.
Yes.
And, you know, a lot of mentors are still focused so much on personal production and not truly being there to help and assist. I think that's important.
Yeah, it's a funny thing when you transition from agent to agency owner. You know, it's not about you anymore. It's about your people. And you got to take care of your people, because if you take care of your people, people take care of you. It's sometimes agents can't make the switch. They just don't have it. You know, they make so much money. Sometimes it's just like agents that are in their downline are kind of a pest more than they are kind of an asset, which truly, if you're very good at this business, the money really is in the agency building, tremendous amounts. And there are always needs for it. So, well, Melissa, thank you for being here. Enjoyed the interview and keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.